All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another Tech Social. Thanks for being here. My name is Gabby. I'm a business analyst here at Cogent. We have Edgar here with us, who is always our moderator. And we are very happy about today because we have Bunny as a speaker. He's an AWS certified speaker. And today's topic is Gen AI Unleashed, practical insights for real-world applications. So if you have any questions, if you have any comments, you can leave them on the chat section, or you can also raise your hand. We will be taking your questions as we go, or at the end, whatever you prefer. Thanks again for being here. Edgar, over to you.
Thank you, Gabby. Yeah, so very excited to be here today, as you were saying, right? I think today's episode is going to be very special. Ever since we got LLMs and we started with all of this Gen AI buzz, it was always the question for me, like, okay, we are doing this, we do this personally every day, but when is it really going to reach, right? Companies and the enterprise landscape. So for that, we have Bonnie today, as you mentioned, and it's going to be very exciting to know what kind of things he's making with Gen AI and anything related to his experience. It's going to be very, very enriching. So thank you once again, Bonnie, for being here, and over to you.
Thank you, Edgar. Thank you, Gabby. Hey, everyone. So just a brief introduction about me, and I also wanted to talk about how I have actually worked with multiple industries in the generative AI side. So I'm Bunny Kaushik. I'm a solutions architect here at Amazon Web Services. My specialty is in AI, machine learning, and generative AI. So that's where I'm like thrilled to talk about this generative AI today and how in real world industry they are utilizing this experience. So if you want, yeah, I can start my journey, like how I actually came into this role, into this specifically in this field on the Gen AI side, what inspires me in this field, and then we can look into like different use cases, what all things we have in generative AI. So yeah,
that sounds amazing.
Cool. So, I have worked in different technologies in the past, from network engineering, databases. I actually started as a software developer like long time back, and then I worked in network engineering. I was in a very beautiful island called Mauritius for 2 years. That's where I was a network engineer. I came to US and I did my master's here. I got a job in Amazon. And suddenly, like what inspired me to move to AI, ML, and Gen AI side is so I'm actually a sports fan. So I like watching NFL and NHL games. So NFL is like a football league here in US. So we used to see those ads like AWS ads on like next gen stats on these NFL. So basically, like imagine like every player on football field, they are wearing a like a tiny sensor on their shoulder pad. So those sensors are constantly sending data about exactly where those players are and how fast they are running, and even like how quickly they accelerate. So down to an inch. So it's like having GPS tracker on every player, capturing every move that they are making. So here, where it gets really interesting. So NFL partnered with AWS there to make sense of this massive amount of data in real time. So all that data that NFL is collecting, basically, like they are able to see like what player, like Tyrod Taylor, he completed a pass to Andre Holmes, and the AI system could instantly calculate that Holmes had 60% probability of making that catch based on the position. Um, so there are a lot of benefits that came out from this NFL. So they are studying every aspect, every play, how they can predict potential injuries before they happen. And this allows early intervention and preventive measures. That really excited me from starting from the NFL game. And then I started looking hockey leagues, even like Australia swimming, PGA Tour, So I started learning more about it, watched YouTube videos, and then and also since behind the scenes, AI and machine learning, it's all mathematics and statistics, and that was also my like passion from my early childhood. So that's where the intersection came in, and I started to move to the AI ML side.
Hmm. Wow, that's an amazing story.
Yep.
Great. And actually, what I really like about what you are telling us, right? Your profile is how you moved across different areas on the IT space, and how you ended up precisely in this particular intersection that right now is like so hot, if we can say it that way, right? Like really getting a lot of attention and really having all of this potential to create all of these solutions. So it's definitely very exciting to know. Could you tell us a bit more about this transition that you made? Was it easy for you to jump from that particular position that you had into the AI world? And what kind of things did you have to learn to be able to make that transition?
Yeah, it was definitely not that easy, especially like in the first 6 months, because I was in like network engineering world. I had background in database, like multiple things, but um, when I moved to AIML side, I was like from day and night, I was just learning about the technology, understanding how it works, watching YouTube videos. There was a Coursera course on machine learning from Andrew Ng, which is like very popular course. So I did that course. It's like really like mathematics behind the scenes, like how it happens and all of that. So just basically going through different courses, that's where I learned how the technology works. And then the first 6 months was challenge, but then slowly I got used to it and I learned a lot. And then I got my subject matter expertise on a service called SageMaker, which is a machine learning service of Amazon. Pretty like has a more than like 200 capabilities within that service in machine learning. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Mhm. Okay, very interesting. Yeah, actually, I think I'd like to take a little bit here on how it works, right? That you are telling us that you
Yeah.
saw these videos and then you kind of get started into it. So can you tell us a bit more about how Gen AI works and maybe what makes it different, this
Yeah.
particular area of AI with any other machine learning approaches?
Yep. So Gen AI, you can think of is it's like a subset of AI and machine learning. So you might have heard there's AI, there's machine learning, there's deep learning, and then there's also generative AI. So that generative AI is quite popular now. So what generative AI is, so it's a type of AI that can create new content and ideas, including like conversations, stories, images, videos, and music. So like all AI, Gen AI is powered by machine learning models, and those are like really large models that are pre-trained on vast amount of data, and which we commonly refer to as these models as foundation models. So one type of foundation model is large language model. There's also vision models that you'll see, but large language models are quite popular. So basically, think of it like, for example, you're teaching a child how to understand and use language. So at first, they learn individual words. So dog means for a four-legged furry pet, and cat is another type of pet, and so on. So this is how exactly Gen AI began its journey. So let me share like a story of the Gen AI from like behind the scenes for like couple of years back, since 2017, 2016, and what was before Gen AI. So we started with something called word embeddings. So these are like turning words into numbers that computers could understand. So we had a algorithm called word to vec, which was early technique where you can actually feed lots of documents and get numerical representation of those words. Basically, computers don't understand these words. They can understand these numbers and numerical representation. So that's where we need those numerical representation. So let's say dog and a cat, they will be close together in those numerical representation, and car and a bus will be close together in a numerical vector representation. So these things are called embeddings. Then there was something called recurrent neural networks. So when I was actually studying about AI and machine learning, when this RNN came, I was like, wow, this is something amazing. So what RNNs could do is they could look at those last few words in a sentence and predict what the next word would be. But there were some limitations with RNNs, and there's also something called long short-term memory, which is also called LSTMs. So for example, like predicting the last word of like the quick brown fox jumps over the lazy and what the last word would be. So RNNs could only see the few words back, but they cannot see the whole broader context, like the whole book worth of information. So that was the limitation. So it has a like short memory where it can only see the few words back. Now, a revolution that came was in 2017 when Google published a paper called "Attention is All You Need," which was the start of something called transformer architecture. So, what it could do is it can look at the entire piece of document, like books worth of document, and then understand the context from that document, understand the meaning behind it, and it can predict what the next word would be. And that is exactly what generative AI is. It can understand the whole document, books worth of document, and then predict what the next word would be, next tokens would be. And that's where, like, whenever you ask anything from ChatGPT or any LLMs, you ask something, what it is exactly doing, it's predicting what the next word comes with how much probability, and it's typing that out. So,
Mhm,
yep,
mhm. Yeah, exactly.
yep,
Actually, I think what is fascinating about Gen AI, right, is the way in which it came to the hands of everyone, pretty much, right? Not only very specialized teams. And I guess it's also interesting to know, whenever we have these kind of things, we normally talk about bubbles, right? Like we had the blockchain bubble, and then we can say that maybe we are in a AI bubble. And normally what I've seen that happens is that everybody's excited about it and everybody talks about it. But in the end, there are very few things that actually last when that bubble bursts, right? So I think it would be fascinating from your perspective, given that you had the opportunity to be in that space before, right? The complete pause was there. What do you think will be there in the future after this bubble kind of bursts in what actually would be the, like the actual application of the technology and how it will keep transforming the world after this hype fades away. So,
yep.
yeah.
So my personal opinion would be on this. So when internet came, that's also when actually people started talking, okay, internet, it's like a bubble. It'll last for a few years and then it'll go away. But then you see, we are still using internet. But it's like kind of a normal thing that it's not something we think about. When computers came, that's also same thing happened. Even like in the engineering terms, I've heard like so many times when I was studying for engineering, that time also people are saying, oh, it's just a bubble. Engineering is just a bubble. You'll see in like a couple of years, it'll go away. But that's not something that is happening. You see, even like today, it's continuing to advance. Now, what will happen, what my personal opinion is, it'll be like normalized in like few years. GenAI would be just like a normal, regular day-to-day industries will be applying it in there. There are a lot of use cases, a huge number of use cases that can come up in AI and GenAI, maybe thousands and thousands, maybe millions of use cases. And companies are brainstorming on those use cases from different organizations, and they have started to implement those use cases already, and they have seen a tremendous amount of like efficiency in their environment. The developers have seen efficiency in the environment. The businesses have seen efficiency in terms of like cost reduction, in terms of how like efficient they are writing code, in terms of how efficient they are like maybe generating something and then using that in their environment, extracting information from those documents. So it's kind of I feel like in few years it'll be just like normalized, but there won't be something like a kind of a bubble. It will go away. I don't feel like that. So yeah.
All right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. All right. Now that we are talking about use cases, right? What if you tell us about some of them? That would be incredibly interesting to know. And could we start maybe from the beginning? And could you tell us how was your first project? How did it look like? And what were the challenges that you faced on that initial project that you later kind of made it part of your process? So
Yep. So my first like here when I actually moved to the AI/ML side and GenAI side, I was focusing like for the first 2 years, I was just focusing on like first learning all the technology behind the scenes and working on like kind of issues. So we had a customer, they were doing like predictive maintenance. It's a really huge customer. And so they started with something called ImageNet dataset. And they took that ImageNet dataset. There's a Kaggle. So if you look at or Kaggle.com, there are a lot of competitions that happen in AI/ML and generative AI, AI/ML and Gen AI side. So you can actually put your data, like your own custom data, your own notebooks there. You can ask people to like take part in the competitions, and a lot of organizations do that as well, where they actually go online and they take part in the competition. So we were working on something called ImageNet dataset that was there on the Kaggle competitions. The first problem was the performance. That was the huge challenge. The comparing of the performance from multiple environments, in terms of storage, in terms of compute, and see how we can actually optimize those performance. So we actually went down deep into the operating system level on the NVIDIA chips, NVIDIA GPUs, and see how we can optimize those performance. I won't go into much too technical details inside that, but that was the first challenge, and it took us like probably a few months, like 3-4 months, to actually figure out how to solve those things and how we can optimize the performance of the like the data set, which was like in terabytes format. So, but then
oh wow.
so after like 1 or 2 years, when I was like a solutions architect, I started working in like for healthcare. I started working for retail and consumer packaged goods, and then I'm also in the financial services, capital markets. So I've seen multiple use cases in all those areas, and also challenges in terms of industry. So starting with like that time, like Gen AI was not a thing. Probably like 2 years back, 2-3 years back, Gen AI was not a thing. So industries were doing all the AI/ML side. But last year, we were helping out customers on something called content moderation. So whenever in the packaging of the retail and CPG products, when users put any like an image on those products, there's a content moderation behind the scenes, the whole architecture. So it can actually go and see if person is putting any abusive thing or anything with maybe drugs or something, and it redacts those things. Even like PII, it redacts those things. So that was the first thing I started like last to last year, actually 2 years back. And this year I've worked a lot on the capital market side, in terms of document extraction, a lot of use cases in Gen AI, which I can talk about. So,
yeah, no, definitely. I'd love to explore more on the different use cases.
Yep.
But right before doing that, what if since we were talking about your first experience, right? how is it to manage the life cycle of an Gen AI application? Especially because, you know, based on my knowledge, you can get a proof of concept relatively quickly, right? Like running and showing stuff to the customer, but scaling from there to something in production, it has some particularities, right? That you need to take care of. So can you tell us a bit more about how is it to handle this life cycle of the application and how you manage to scale you want to move to production?
Okay. So the life cycle actually starts with a use case in mind. So when we talk with customers, we first understand the use case, what their business challenges are, what exactly that they want to achieve. And while they say we want to use GenAI, but not all use cases would be a GenAI use case. It could be just automation use case or maybe analytics. So that's where we understand, do you really need GenAI? Because if this can be solved with automation, if it's not a GenAI use case, then we don't go towards that. So understanding the use case, and after that, we understand the data, what type of data that they have. Is it like it's a large data, and what's their scalability, like what their requirements are. Um, and then based on that, we define like what the success looks after like they achieve this use case. Any requirements that they have in terms of security, privacy, scalability, all those things. We understand that. And once we decide, okay, this is a GenAI use case, within the GenAI life cycle, if you see, you'll see there are like a lot of models available out there. A lot of large language models from AWS, from OpenAI, from Google. But what exactly model to choose for that particular use case? Because if they try it out like with one model, they'll see a good result, but with another model, they'll see not that good result. So first thing is evaluating what model works for their use case. There are a lot of evaluation techniques that they can try it out. They can loop in as do a human in the loop, where human can actually see the results of those evaluations. And once they evaluate it, there are three techniques for customizing. So one is prompt engineering. So basically, testing out with different types of prompts, give it multiple examples. There are like a lot of techniques within prompt engineering, like how many examples you provide and what type of uh, prompt that you provide basically can actually give you a more accurate output or more the type of output that you're looking for. So prompt engineering is one, and there is something called retrieval augmented generation. What exactly that is, you have like large sets of documents, maybe like thousands of documents. You cannot put those documents like in the like chat window. Like if you're using any Anthropic Claude model or maybe Chat GPT, you can not put those entire documents in the chat window because it has like a context length that it can use. So that is where retrieval augmented generation comes in. You put those documents in the storage service and then use RAG techniques. So basically what it does is it converts those documents into chunks and then converts into embeddings. Embeddings, you remember I was talking about like it converts those words into the numerical vectors so computers can understand. So those numerical vectors are like in the spatial analysis, you'll see like dog and cat would be together and bus and car would be together, but it'll be far apart because that's where like it's able to understand the model will be able to understand properly. Once those are converted into the numerical vectors, then users can ask questions. So ask questions like through prompts, do a prompt engineering, ask questions, and it will be able to do a retrieval from those. It's called semantic search. Be able to understand the document, be able to understand the meaning behind the document, and then use those as a context along with the user input and send it to the LLM, and then you get the output. So that's where the understanding of like how RAG works, prompt engineering, RAG. So those are important. The third thing is fine tuning, but we usually don't go towards fine tuning because 95% of the use cases that I have seen can be solved with just these two techniques, prompt engineering and RAG. Once it's able to solve those techniques through prompt engineering and RAG, then they can start forward with that. And towards, if you look at the productionizing side, that's where like they have to understand guardrails if they need a guardrail there. So for example, if they have a like it's a like a data set and users are asking question like about investment advice, and you don't want to do that, like you don't want LLM to provide advice on something on investment side, or maybe user is asking something on the PII, like give me the address of this person based on the documents that you have. You don't want LLM to do that. So that's where you guardrails come in. It can detect and redact PIIs. It can detect any kind of abusive language that is being there on any denied topics, that you can do that. So those are guardrails that they need to implement. The other, security and privacy, they want to understand those areas as well, how secure they want the traffic to be and all of that. So those are some of them.
Mhm.
Yep.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Actually, I love to dive in here. I mean, I think you covered great topics, and at the same time, I'm pretty sure there's a lot more to talk about them. Maybe in another session, why not? Right, where we can get a bit more technical.
Yep.
But in the meantime, can you tell us a bit more about now the use cases, right? How Gen AI has helped your customers, and what are these use cases that you have implemented? Perhaps what worked best, and what other use cases were not that good? Please tell us more about your experience in these use cases that you have implemented and how they
Yep.
help your customers.
Yep. Definitely. So we have a model called Anthropic Claude model, Claude 3 Sonnet and 3.5 Sonnet. 3.5 is like really top performing, one of the top performing models. So what we do is when working with the customer, so they had like a lot of financial statements, so income statements, balance sheets, cash flow statements, and they wanted to ask questions on from those statements. So they want to build a Q&A chatbot so they can ask questions like, how much debt does the company have, or does the company have a lot of goodwill on its balance sheet, or are revenues steadily increasing over time? So those kind of questions they wanted to ask from those financial statements. So instead of going through each and every financial statement and looking at understanding that, so they can have that Q&A chatbot and they can ask those questions. So that is where we use these documents as a source. It's kind of a RAG technique, which I mentioned. Use document as a source and then ask Q&A questions through to this model and get those answers with the RAG technique. So that is one thing. The other was one of the organizations, a lot of these use cases which I'm talking about, it's also like publicly available. If you can also see it like on the website. So Bridgewater was one of the industry. It's a hedge fund industry. So they had a challenge on their hands. So their investment analyst, they were spending a lot of time writing code and using software tools just to create charts and tables from all the macroeconomic data that they were analyzing. So they wanted to find a way to accelerate and streamline that whole process. So that's where they use Claude model within Amazon Bedrock, and they created something called Investment Analyst Assistant. And they generated a complex chart. They computed financial indicators, created summary based on the natural language queries that they were asking. So that actually reduced those coding efforts by like close to 75% with those with the data. So that was one thing. The other is I've seen a lot on the automotive side and also on the healthcare side. So automotive side, like I can talk about like from an example from BMW. So BMW has this something called connected vehicle department. So what they were doing is they were managing complex systems that keeps these vehicles smart and connected. So everything from car navigation that you see and the entertainment systems to remote monitoring and all the over-the-air software updates. So the challenge what they had was they had like 450 technical teams that was managing about like 1,300 different applications that was powering these connected car services. So they were spending like countless hours on monitoring vehicle connectivity system, managing customer facing applications, maintaining backend services and all of that. So BMW also created this AI assistant using Gen AI. So what it does, it answers those complex technical questions by searching through these documentation that they were collecting and monitor the cloud system, write code solutions. So all of that through RAG services, through like code generation that that they did. And actually, if you see a lot of use cases are tied into like four categories. One is enhancing customer experience. So that's where like if they want to build a chat bot or virtual assistant or maybe intelligent contact center. So users can actually, when they call in and then the agents will have the documentation behind the scenes, and through RAG workflow they can actually get those answers. They can check the sentiment of the user, of the customer that they are talking to. So those are the things from the customer experience side. The other is boosting employee productivity. So that's where like code generation, content creation, or search comes in. They can actually go and look at this document. Maybe they are doing a meeting, but they don't have time to actually go and revisit the meeting recording and understand what's happening. So they can ask the chatbot, give me the summary of the meeting or provide a key points that was discussed. The other is creative and content creation, like maybe product design, music creation. And the fourth one is improving business operations. So that's where like document processing, content moderation comes in. So you have like large pieces of document, you can do extraction from those document, get the key details, and then use that in your business workflow. So those four areas that you'll see a lot that comes in.
Mm.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Fantastic. So, I mean, for sure that there are other things happening there behind the scenes, right? What about hallucinations? Can you tell us how is it for these use cases that you implemented, and maybe in general, how we can handle that, and how frequent would it be for somebody to find them when they are trying to implement AI solutions?
Yep. So, for those who don't know about hallucination, what exactly are hallucinations? So hallucinations are mainly a data problem. So LLMs suffer from something called knowledge cutoff, where they only know up to a point where their training data stops. So, and also they are like, they can be trained on wide variety of data, some of which can be inaccurate or incomplete. So the models that you'll see today nowadays, like for example, Claude model, so they have that inbuilt. So hallucination techniques that it actually minimizes the hallucination. There are ways that you can actually do to also eliminate, maybe not eliminate, but minimize the hallucination as much as possible. So that's where these techniques like prompt engineering and RAG comes in, and there are parameters like top P, top K, and temperature. Now I'll talk about this, how this actually helps the RAG and these parameters. So when you use RAG, it can reduce hallucination by focusing the question and answer context on a specific domain data. So when you are asking a question from the particular document, it's only looking at those document. It's not looking at the other outside information. So that's where hallucination can be reduced, because you are asking something only from your document. That's where, the LLMs won't give like any outside information, something like that, or maybe incorrect information. That is one thing. I won't say like it will completely reduce hallucination, but there's a way to minimize that hallucination. The other is there are couple of parameters, like there's a temperature. Basically, how you want LLM to provide the output. Do you want like a creative output, or do you want it to be more obsessed towards prompt that you're asking? What do you want it more a discrete? So you can adjust those variables and that get those kind of output. So those are some of the techniques which are there.
Mhm.
Yep.
Okay. And given there's this probability, right, that at some point some particular response is not 100% accurate,
Yep.
and that's related to hallucinations, right?
Yep.
How is it that you convey that to your customers, and how is that, especially, I think there needs to be a particular component of communication here, where you are exactly doing what you're doing now, explaining the concepts and how it works, and perhaps some particularities of it. So how is that communication that you have with your customers? What are like the best techniques that you have found to talk to them, and for them to understand what is happening, and for them to wanting to move forward, right, with the projects? So can you
Yep.
tell us a bit more about that?
Yep. So definitely. So that's also where we first need to understand, like in terms of use case. Um, so if you see GenAI, it's generating something, but it's not discrete output that you're getting. What you're getting from the algorithms, like traditional machine learning algorithms, the output you're getting, it's kind of a discrete output. But with the GenAIs, it's kind of a generative output. You're asking something now, you're getting one kind of output, but maybe 15 minutes after, you'll see a different output. Um,
Mhm.
Now, understanding the use case, how critical is it is, do they always want a discrete output no matter what? Specifically in the financial sector space, with areas there, like they only want very discrete output, just one type of output. They don't care about like they don't want to use GenAI for that. So that's where they use traditional machine learning methods. Um, but there are ways you can actually minimize, there are ways you can actually get like kind of a more discrete kind of a nature of output. That's where like those techniques we talk about, like in prompt engineering. So we give those workshops in prompt engineering, different techniques on prompt engineering. Anthropic has different techniques, workshops on prompt engineering. And also I'm sure like all the different LLMs have different techniques. So we give those workshops. We talk about how you can actually, through these parameters, get the output that you're looking for, in terms of, yep, from the LLM.
Mhm. Oh,
Yep.
I have
okay.
a question.
Yep.
I'm curious about something. Do businesses need to prepare their force to like integrate generative AI into like day-to-day operations?
Yep, that's correct. So that is where like, first, educating their workforce is also like enabling the workforce on the techniques on the Gen AI and LLM side. Once they understand that and how they can integrate that, and LLM is just one part. There's also other areas, like you need to have a visual interface where they can actually go in and ask questions. There's also storage layer where you're putting the documents, or maybe databases where you're putting those documents. That is one thing. And the traffic flow from storage layer, even like going from your user interface from your laptop to the like APIs that you're calling to the visual interface. So those are the things that we actually, like as a solutions architect, help out in those areas with the whole architecture.
Got it. All right.
Yep.
Cool. So I think we have one question from the audience,
Yep.
from Kieran, and he's saying how we can become AI specialists easily using your AI experience. So maybe not that easily, right? But perhaps, yeah.
So first thing, I would say, so there are courses from deeplearning.ai. Those are really good courses. I would actually start with those if you want to learn about Gen AI, if you want to learn about machine learning. Then so a couple of courses are from Andrew Ng itself. So Andrew Ng is the creator of deep learning AI, and he was a Stanford professor. So he's like kind of a like father figure in the machine learning and Gen AI side, who actually introduced machine learning a lot. So, and then there are a lot of also courses on Coursera and YouTube that they can go through. Yeah.
Okay, thank you for those tips. I'll definitely check out that website. And yeah, so for the next year, I've seen that there's a lot of hype around agents, right? And,
Yeah.
getting all of these tasks that you want to perform automatically done by them. So what do you see from your perspective? Is that something that you would like to implement in your projects, or have you seen any projects already on that space? What do you think about agents in general?
Yeah, that's a really good question, actually. And I have actually used agents with my customers. I've used it on my own workflow as well. Um, and those are really interesting topic, and especially in the future, you'll see a lot of innovation that will be happening on the agent side. So what agents are exactly like? It's kind of an orchestration workflow. RAG is one piece where you're asking question from these documents, but there's also a piece like you want to invoke an API, maybe talk to the database, or maybe um, create something like you have a whole function like a Python script or something. You want to invoke that, maybe send an email or maybe create something. So that is where agents come into picture. One such example is like you have these FOMC, like Federal Open Market Committee reports. Um, Now you want to maybe ask questions from FOMC documents. And based on asking those questions, you also want to create portfolios. For that, you have your own Python script, Python functions with all the APIs and everything, and also send emails to the audience based on the meetings that have occurred. So that is where agents can come into picture. You ask questions from these documents, you create a portfolio, you send an email. All of that is handled by agents piece. So and this in the future, you'll see a lot of things. I mean, it's already started. There's a multi-agent capability where there's one agent specializing in maybe research, the other agent specializing in something else, the third agent specializing in third thing. So all the three agents collaborating together and doing their own work and then providing you the output. So basically, it creates that logical flow with step-by-step approach, and then give you the output based on what you're asking. So
Yeah,
I
so
have one more question. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Ed.
sure, Gabby. No, please go ahead.
Okay, yeah, no, we have talked a lot about all these industries that you have implemented AI to, right? But are there any industries right now that are still underutilizing Gen AI? And in your experience, what like breakthrough applications could emerge in those spaces where they are still underutilizing it?
So I have seen even like a lot of industries and organizations, they have started using AI, AI and especially the Gen AI. They have started using Gen AI, but they are also a lot in the prototype phase, the POC phase. They have not productionized these their environment in the Gen AI side, and they are working on productionizing it. So that's where some of the challenge we have seen. But when talking about like financial services, healthcare, life sciences, automotive, manufacturing, retail, even like telecommunications and media entertainment, all of it, I've seen use cases in the Gen AI side that they have started to implement. And some of the use cases, like for example, in telecommunication industry, it could be like simple like a contact center. When a person calls the contact center, they have a Gen AI implemented where it can actually go and look at the sentiments, and it can look at these documents and then provide you the summarized response or something like that. So it could be those as well. So some some of these are like cross-industry use cases, which can be utilized in like all of these industries, just like contact center or maybe just a Q&A chatbot, like how we are all doing, like maybe through Chat GPT. So, yep.
All right. Ed, do you have any final question?
I still have a lot of questions actually, but I guess I'll pick just one for now, and maybe we can keep talking about it because it's a lot of things to cover, and I think it's amazing how technology is evolving. But this would be more on the relaxed side kind of thing, and I wanted to ask you, given that you are professionally doing Gen AI, what would be, on the other hand, the Gen AI kind of applications that you use in your daily life? Like, are there any favorites or anything in particular that we can just go and look at and start experimenting a little bit with it?
So I myself actually, what I do is I have access to these the LLMs from Amazon. So I actually try it out from there. But as a like a user, you can actually go and maybe start using Chat GPT, or maybe start using like Google, or maybe if you have AWS account, you can start using AWS LLMs and try it out. You don't have to go towards fine tuning anything. It's just using those LLMs and asking questions. Maybe if you have a meeting, maybe you want to ask something regarding your meeting, summarize the meeting, or give me the key points that was discussed. So you can do that, and I do that a lot whenever I actually am in a meeting or something, or maybe I missed a meeting. Then I ask. I just wanted to see the key points. So those are the things that that you can use it for. Even for like,
yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, even for anything like generating stuff or something. You ask a question to generate some, help me out in writing the email, or just help me out like correcting the grammar of this. So yeah,
Right.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, I think the more you practice, right, the better you become at interacting with it.
Yep.
And then, basically you get into that wave and start riding it because it's going to be huge, I think. So amazing. All right. So yeah, thank you so much, Bonnie, for coming. I think we are already there in regards of the time, but I really appreciate it. And hopefully, if possible, it would be amazing if we can have another session. As I said, I think there are a lot more questions there that we would like to ask and to understand based on your experience. So I really appreciate the time that that you took to be here with us today, and thanking you for that. Yeah. Gabby or Bonnie, any closing questions before we conclude? No question, rather comments. Sorry.
Nothing from my side. I think it was
Okay.
like I was really delighted to meet you all and talk about this journey.
No, thank you so much, Bonnie, for wanting to participate in this. It's been a pleasure. We have learned a lot. As Edgar said, we can keep in touch. If there's any other topic that we can cover with you, we'll be happy to have you back. Thanks again for being here, and for all of you who joined this session, thank you for supporting this space. We will be back next Thursday. As you can see, after 2 years, we have covered a lot of areas. Next week, for the first time, we will be covering sales area. So if you're interested in this, please be here next week. Thank you, Bonnie, again. It's been a pleasure. And thank you all.
Thank you all.
Bye-bye.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you,
you.
guys.